the University of Cambridge invited Acharya Prashant for an exclusive dialogue to a distinguished forum where some of the most important questions concerning the future of the world are discussed, a tradition spanning more than 800 years. Cambridge, one of the world's most prestigious centers of learning and intellectual inquiry. It is a stage that has hosted influential voices such as Winston Churchill, Theodore Roosevelt, and Stephen Hawking.
So it's not about doing something more. That's why all these 30 COPs have failed.
At a time when the world is grappling with war, climate change, and growing human unrest, the Cambridge Union invited Acharya Prashant, a leading philosophical voice from India, for a special conversation. On 30th of May 2026, at the University of Cambridge, in a dialogue with Professor Jaideep Prabhu, Professor of Marketing, and Jawaharlal Nehru Professor of Indian Business, Vice Dean for Faculty at Cambridge Judge Business School, Acharya Prashant explored a question at the heart of today's global crises. As humanity grows more powerful outwardly, are we neglecting the one thing that matters most, understanding ourselves?
We are fortunate to have someone who not only understands India as a market, but also as an economy, and also as a civilization and a wellspring of ideas for the world. Professor Jaideep Prabhu is the Jawaharlal Nehru Professor of Indian Business and Enterprise at Cambridge Judge Business School and Director of the Center for India and Global Business. His pioneering work on frugal innovation has reshaped how the world thinks about creativity from the global south. Beyond his scholarship, Professor Prabhu has been the heart and soul of the Center for India and Global Business and a steadfast mentor who has guided this dialogue and our society year after year. We owe him an enormous debt of gratitude. Please join me in welcoming Professor Jaideep Prabhu. It is an extreme honor to introduce Acharya Prashant. Acharya Prashant is a philosopher and author of acclaimed bestsellers, including Truth Without Apology and Karma. Ranked in the top 20 of the Watkins list of the 100 most spiritually influential living people, he is followed online by over 100 million people across the globe, making him the most followed philosophical voice in the world. An alumnus of IIT Delhi and IIM Ahmedabad, he has devoted himself to mass-based education of the self, and his teaching program has now 150,000 regular enrolled students from all walks of life. He is a columnist for several newspapers and a recipient of prestigious awards like the Outstanding Contribution to National Development Award by the IIT Delhi Alumni Association and the PETA Most Influential Vegan of the Year Award. His insights on ecological responsibility and climate awareness have made him one of the most compelling philosophical voices on the planetary crisis of our time. Thank you, Acharya Prashant, for being here.
The theme of our conversation is contemplative thought for a world in crisis. What do you think about these big crises we face? Climate change, inequality. What's at the root?
The big crises that we face are a combination of the
How serious this effort is, and you are very clear about that.
Isn't this incompleteness also spurring us towards development, the scientific development, and also spiritual development?
Ishavasya Upanishad, very beautifully it says, Ten tyakten bhunjitha. Do consume, but with wisdom.
To what we see with climate change, we probably don't have that much enough time.
Time is needed when there is a task to be accomplished. The entire problem of climate crisis is that we have been doing too much of additional and unnecessary things.
In my mind, there are 3 bridges that need to be built. Yeah? So I need to mention the 3 bridges. Yeah? So first bridge is...
Professor Jaideep, over to you.
Thank you, Ashish, and good afternoon, everybody. It's such a pleasure for me to be here for so many reasons, but perhaps the most important one is I get to speak to Acharya Prashant. We have something in common. We both started our adult lives at IIT Delhi.
Yes.
I think this is a bit different from that, but that is special in its own way.
Definitely.
So many questions to ask you. I will take some time to ask my questions, and then I will give the audience time to ask you questions. I know a lot of people here have lots of questions for you. So you started at IIT D, you then went to IIM Ahmedabad, and like many of us from that kind of background, you went into a corporate life, but then you left that. Why?
Because what I was trying to find and seeking to address was not downstream of the tech and management education. I could sense it was somewhere upstream. Technology and management both are tools in the hands of the human being. And tools are used for a purpose. The purpose is inside. The tools are outside. I could see there were so many qualified and very, very talented people around me in both these campuses and also in my UPSC batch, that cadre. A lot of them were in fact, I would humbly say more talented than me. So when it came to having the tool or sharpening the tool or wielding the tool, there were those who could do it just as well as I could or better than me maybe. But what was tech or management to be used for? That was the question that was bothering me. What is it that the human being inherently wants? What is it that we are inwardly thirsty for? Because the flow of technology has been constant, and technologically and economically we are more prosperous today than we have ever been in our history. And yet we fight, yet we clamor, yet there is so much of mental illness and all kinds of trouble. Inwardly, we have remained what we were since the cave. Whereas outwardly, there has been so much change. So I wanted to invest myself in a direction that would probably matter a little more, and probably a direction that was not being addressed sufficiently by a sufficient number of people. So I didn't know it with even this much clarity, though I won't claim I have a lot of clarity even today. But at that time, it was all quite hazy. However, I tried to find my way through the haze, struggled, stumbled. I'm still doing that.
You're so humble. So was it a moment's realization, or was it a gradual process?
It was all gradual, and the process has continued till date. So it was a series of questions, followed by experiments, followed by observations, followed by insights, then fresh experiments. One would come to crossings. There would be just so many ways radiating out from there. One would proceed in a direction, figure out it doesn't work out, something branches out elsewhere, or just take a U-turn. All kinds of things were done. It's been a longish journey now.
So it's a process.
It's a process. It's definitely a process.
The theme of our conversation is contemplative thought for a world in crisis.
Yes.
What do you think about these big crises we face? Climate change, inequality. What's at the root?
The big crises that we face are a combination of the little one we are on the inside and the big power we are now wielding on the outside. Take these two, multiply them, let them compound on each other over decades and centuries, and what you have is a big crisis. Inwardly, we have remained small. Inwardly, we are still very primitive, very much the man from that cave I referred to. Inwardly, we are that. And outwardly, we have big power, huge power. We are commanding not just this planet. Soon we would be commanding our satellite and maybe the other planets as well. Very prosperous, very, very knowledgeable. very connected, very coordinated. We have all that, and all that is really big, especially when you consider that the fact that the rivers haven't changed in their power, or the other species haven't developed so much cognitively or economically. So mankind is tremendously powerful today, and as small inside as he or she was long back. These two, the dangerous combo.
So how do we make that inner weak self stronger to combat, to cope with these?
Such a pertinent and beautiful question. You see, first of all, I'm not denying the importance of external progress, right? I understand tech is important, management is important, policy is important. I come from that background. I know what science has given us, and I deeply, deeply respect that. What I'm saying is what we are doing on the outside is necessary, but not sufficient. Obviously, we need what is happening there. The problem lies upstream of the point we are addressing. The problem lies inside. If the human being does not know his emotions, his motivations, does not know the source of his desires, then he'll be using all possible tools just to feed the inner hunger more and more, and this inner hunger is insatiable. The entire planet can be exploited and depleted, and yet we will remain inwardly hungry. So along with what we are already doing on the outside, all that is fine. All that is fine. Along with what we are already doing on the outside, we need mass-based education of the self. The student, which is the kid starting from 4 or 5 years of age, to the elderly one, aged 90 or even 100, we all must learn to be students of the self. And that is one thing that has been thoroughly missing in our upbringing, in our schools, colleges, and universities. We are taught about everything except the one that we are. So what happens then is that all that we are taught and empowered with becomes just a tool, rather a weapon, to fulfill this internal want that we never have understood in the first place. We address the issue of having. How can I have that? How can I have that? How can I have that? We don't address the issue of wanting. And that want is not a technical quantity. That want is a qualitative presence within that goes unexamined. No CAT scan, no MRI would ever reveal the want that sits within and wants infinitely. And yet, because of the want of that one sitting within, that everything on this planet moves, everything made by man. Is there anything that man has made and is not aimed at fulfilling desire? No. I'm not denigrating desire. What I'm asking is, if it is my desire and I am to invest my one single precious life in chasing that desire, must I know where that desire springs from, whether it is my own desire at all, whether I am my own at all, whether this thing called the self is mine at all? What is it that exists? What is it that we call as the conscious human being? So these are the questions. I'm not saying they have never been addressed. They have been. But what we need is a situation where they are being addressed in every classroom, every household, every conversation. That's the most important conversation this planet needs to have.
And I know that, as you said, you believe that we need mass-based educational self.
Yes.
I know that you have done that and you're doing that.
Yes.
Tell us a bit about that. How is that happening? What are you doing there?
So you see, because the regular formal official system does not address that education of the self sufficiently, so what we are doing is in the form of an addition. So it's mostly a night school. It's an online night school. So we have regular sessions, regular to the extent of being 30 days a month. Even this day, before coming here, I was finalizing the examination for tonight. And given the 5-hour difference, right now, the students in India would be taking that examination, even as we speak here. So every day at 9 p.m. We meet online. Some of them assemble physically as well, but the number is not much, 200 or 500 or maximum 2,000 can meet me in an auditorium. The others, all the number that we quoted, 1 lakh plus, they all meet me online. We talk about life in context of philosophical works from the East, all Indian streams. So there are the Upanishads we are addressing, the Bhagavad Gita, then the works of the saints, so the devotional side, and then we are studying Acharya Nagarjuna, Madhyamak Buddhism, Shunyata Saptati. And then again from the East, Lao Tzu, Tao Te Ching, and then also works from the West. So for example, the existential stories, the plays, the works, our students find that quite interesting. But all that is the foundation on which we try to understand the building of life. All that is the context in which we try to understand ourselves. So who am I? So it's not the works that we are interested in, primarily. The works, in fact, are meant to show us the mirror. The works are meant to bring us back to ourselves. So if you ask me, are they students of Vedanta or Sankhya or Buddhism? Well, yes. But a more accurate answer would be they are students of the self. So mass-based education of the self. They are studying themselves through works of philosophy and wisdom and the spiritual scriptures. But the idea is to see what I am doing, because if I do not see quite clearly what I am doing, I'll be doing more and more and more, and the planet can afford that no more.
So I'm really struck by how serious this effort is, and you are very clear about that. I remember you told me last night that you had taught at IITD, but they were auditing the class, and that would not do for you.
Yes.
Tell us about that. It's like an experimental science that people are learning and practicing together in a group very rigorously with exams. Tell us a bit about why.
So the way it proceeds is, so first of all, we'll take up a verse or a sutra, and then we'll get into the exegesis. We'll try to understand what is being said, how it was said then, and what it means today. And that would take around an hour and a half. And after that comes the more lively part, which is the open interaction, the Q&A. So the participants, the students, come up with their open-ended questions, open-ended questions. The questions can come from anywhere in life. The condition is the thing must be important enough for you, which means we don't decide what the direction of the question should be, but you must decide that the question must carry depth. And let it come. It comes from the direction of economics, relationships, politics, religion, everything that matters to the common man and everything that we call as life. Then those questions come, we answer those questions. We also try to relate those questions to the text at hand. And once that is done, then begins the reflections part. So the students come over and just say whatever they have to. Again, the only condition is let it be authentic. Let it be authentic. We don't mind if you say something very unexpected, but we do mind if the thing is superficial, not deep enough, not genuine enough. But that rarely happens. The students now know that this is the place where you can be truly yourself. So you can let go of your inhibitions and just speak your heart out. And that continues for another hour or two. And then we close, because by that time it's already 2 a.m. if we have started at 10 p.m. by that. And before I start, And before I start, even before I arrive, people sing. They sing a lot. Because the wisdom corpus is so full of beautiful songs. And then we choose a song, and it is sung collectively, led by obviously those who know how to sing, the others join in. So altogether, one session lasts upward of 4 hours. And this thing happens 30 days a week. Not that I am present there 30 days a week. I am present there 14 or 15 days. The remaining days, they have examinations.
I love that. I love that. As an academic, I like the fact that you're testing them on what they have done.
Yes. And the examinations, sir, give me a minute, please. The examinations are very rigorous. They are MCQs where out of the 5, rather 6 options, option F is what we go till. Out of all the 6 options, you could have 1 correct option, or 2 correct options, or 6 correct options, and sometimes no correct options at all. You lose marks not only on ticking a wrong option, but also on not ticking a right option. So each single question is designed to be like life. You know, so many options, and you have to make the right choice or choices. And life penalizes you not only for choosing what is not right for you, but also for not choosing what is right for you. So that's what the questions are meant to simulate. Our students enjoy that. A lot of them get marks in negative. The average percentage is sometimes minus 10% or something, but we all love that. Yes, I love setting the question paper. They love attending to the questions, and it's a beautiful journey for all of us.
So that's also interesting, that this is very serious, it's rigorous, but you also have fun, you have a lot of
Yes.
And it's also using tech. I saw the app, very impressive, that one of your team had developed. He showed it to me last night.
Yes.
I could ask you lots of questions. You know, I have several more, but I think it's only fair. There are lots of people here who want to ask you questions. So I'd like to open it up to the audience. Please raise your hand and we will bring a mic to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's very impressive what you're saying. My question was, you're bringing something to a culture where talking about self, individual, isn't encouraged. And I'm just wondering that because, in my journey, growing up in India, then coming to, Europe and understanding that you need to say what you want and not what others want. So how's that? Because it's beautiful what you're saying, discovery of self, but how's it growing up in a very group-orientated?
You see, ma'am, the self is the one center that cannot be hidden. So different cultures have different ways of dealing with the self, or I would rather say coping with the self. Because the self is something that exhibits itself in all that you are, in every word that you utter, in every action, in every decision made, everywhere it is the center that is doing the heavy lifting. So it is anyway being expressed. Since it is anyway being expressed, it is life. The liver of the life is the self, the center that says, I am. The ego self, the I amness. So that is anyway everything. We just encourage honest articulation. The expression is anyway being made. Please understand. You spoke something that was a self-talking. This mic is an equipment in the hands of the self. The fact that we are present here, each one of us, is a choice made by the self. The garments we are wearing, again, is a choice made by the self and reflects something about the self. So the self is everywhere. This building is the self. It's an expression of who we are. The roads, the model of education that we have, this culture that sometimes wants the self to be expressed and sometimes seeks to suppress it, this culture itself is a creation of the self. So the self cannot be repressed. However, the self can try to look not into the mirror. The self is everywhere, but one characteristic of the self is it is outward looking, just as these eyes cannot look at themselves and the ears cannot hear their own sounds, but they gather everything that comes to them from here and there. Similarly, the self is everywhere, but the self has a choice in whether it wants to look at itself. What we are doing in our sessions, in our education program, is providing a mirror to the self. Providing a mirror to the self. You're looking at everything, and what you're looking at is your own creation. Since you are so fond of looking at yourself all around you, why don't you rather look at yourself directly? So the system of education that we are trying to come up with is just a mirror. It's just a mirror. It's nothing additional. And it's a thing of honesty, no? To just look at your own face in the mirror and be ready to face the reality. And if you find something is there in the form of a spoil, just wipe it clean. Simple. That's it.
Wonderful. We have another question from you.
Oh, can you hear me? Akshay Sawant from India. I've been benefited from the Gyan that you have given over the last 3 years. Thank you, Acharya.
Most welcome.
My question is, you have talked about incompleteness a lot, and right from the time that we are born, we experience this incompleteness, and effectively that is the small I inside us. I am from an engineering background like yourself. So my context of the question is, isn't this incompleteness also spurring us towards development, the scientific developments, and also spiritual development? Because we always feel that emptiness and we want to get more and more for everything. But spiritually also, we know that there is something missing, and that's what spurs us towards that knowledge. So if you could just talk a little.
You're very right, but these are two very different directions. Very, very different directions.
Thank you.
Let me quote a statistic. The top 1%, the wealthiest population of the world, is responsible for 16% of carbon emissions. We know they exhaust their carbon quota in the first 10 days of the year. We also know that when it comes to the top 10 wealthiest population of the world, they are responsible for 50% of the emissions. Please tell me, what does money do when you talk of prosperity, when you talk of external achievement? Does it make you satisfied or does it make you hungrier? With money, do you feel satisfied that you have money, or do you embark on a reckless journey of even more consumption? That incompleteness that you're talking of is real. It is empirical. We experience it in the form of loneliness, in the form of restlessness, in the form of a vague void that riles us from within. Each of one does that, right? We do not know what is it that bites us from within, but there is something. There is something. We don't feel at ease when we are lonely. We don't feel at ease when we are in a crowd. When we are defeated, we don't like it. And when we are victorious, we are not very secure about it. So that is there. But that void, is it successfully filled by external accomplishment? That is the question. That is the question. And empirical evidence deeply denies that. You see, you make a people prosperous, and it is not that they say, now that we are prosperous, we need to progress in another dimension. You make a people prosperous, they want to be even more prosperous. They want to be even more. You offer consumption to a person. He will not say, I've had enough of it. He will say, now that I have this much, can I have 3x more? So there is enough evidence to suggest that the external route does not work. And this is not coming from a moral or religious point. This is coming from data-based evidence. This is the nature of the self. External things you are putting into it, they don't belong to the same dimension. We do not understand the hunger, and because we do not understand the hunger, but experience the hunger, so we are feeding all kinds of things to the hunger assuming that something or the other will work out, something or the other will satiate me. The result is that the planet stands deforested, depleted, but the hunger is nowhere close to being addressed. Now the other side, you said we proceed on material achievement, and it is that incompletion that also spurs us towards spiritual advancement, but these are two very different directions. The spiritual dimension, real spirituality, not the traditional rule-bound kind. Real spirituality is simply about being honest with yourself. Who am I? What do I really want? What is it that I present to myself and the world? And what is it that I'm actually on the inside? And then asking oneself the question, am I benefiting inwardly by being what I have chosen to be? It is a commonsensical question. It is in fact a question involving the deepest kind of self-interest. We are not talking selflessness here. We are talking real self-interest here. Am I really benefiting by choosing to be what I have become internally? And don't I have a choice? Do I need to compulsively remain this way? Must I? So that's the question. And that is the spiritual direction. That is not the same as the external direction. These two are not even complementary. Again, in no way am I advocating renunciation here or any kind of minimalism. No. That's not the point. The Ishavasya Upanishad, very beautifully it says, Ten tyakten bhunjitha. Do consume, but with wisdom. The literal meaning would be consume after renunciation. Once you have renounced inner ignorance, now consume. Because now it's no more the blindness consuming. Now it's nature dealing with nature. And you cannot even properly call it consumption. It's just harmony. A wave meets another wave. The smaller wave can get assimilated in the bigger wave. That would not be rightly called as consumption. But even if you call it consumption, that kind of consumption is very much justified. But please, first of all, set aside your ignorance. Then it's beautiful.
So what, in a way, you're saying we have put the cart before the horse.
Yes,
we should have been spending much more time doing this.
Yes.
And that would have led to a more harmonious relationship.
Yes. That's so beautifully.
Technology.
That's very right. So it's not that technology is a problem. The builder of the technology and the user of the technology do not know what to build and what to use it for. Technology is wonderful. We are in some ways a gifted species. There is this prakritic, natural instrument here. We have a specialized brain. Obviously, science and technology must progress. There is beauty in that. But do we know what kind of technologies we need and where to put them, what to do with them? So that's the question.
Wonderful.
Firstly, thank you for being a big advocate for women.
Welcome.
And voicing a lot of problems that we don't get a voice for a lot of times. Thank you for that. And my one very small question is, at what age should we start? And I resonated with your thought process that we are not starting and we're missing a big chunk of education in people, which should have been given and imparted. And it used to be done a long time ago, but not anymore. What age should it start? And what can be done to kind of do the mass education in students? Because the world is going crazy. So if we keep doing this, and rather than doing it at the graduation or post-graduation, by the time, but my ideas are already formed and accustomed to the society around me, it's best to start at a much younger age. So what is your thoughts on that? Thank you.
Beautiful question. And to all those who are in touch with kids here, parents, guardians, teachers, elder siblings, anybody, here is the hint. If the kid can ask, what is this? You must understand the kid can now also ask, what is this? if you find your kid now curious enough and intelligent enough to ask, Mama, what is this? That indicates that the kid now has enough cognitive development to also ask, Mama, who am I? Mama, who am I? But the finger will have to be shown the way. The tendency of the ego is to avoid itself and as a compensation look at everything around, to keep itself busy, to keep feeling purposeful, to keep feeling sensible and occupied. So the kid starts demonstrating that very early. What is this? And he picks this up and puts it in her mouth. And the kid is now getting curious about the world. The same sense that can get curious about the world can also get curious about oneself. So now is the time to guide the finger. Now is the time to hold the mirror to the kid and say, hey, you have looked enough at all this and all this is surely wonderful. But won't you want to look at the looker? Won't you want to know the knower? There is so much beauty in that butterfly, and I understand the butterfly is charming. But kid, you too are so charming. Let's look at you now. So that's the time.
So thank you, Acharya ji. So it's great to see so many people from so many different places who have traveled to listen to you. So while growing up in India, I've been repeatedly told the most difficult thing is to conquer your inner self. And I never understood the significance of it. And now that I've done other things, I know you increasingly realize the importance of it. So the more you focus on your inner self, the more you tend to detach yourself from the capitalistic point of view in the society and the things that you want to build yourself. Or the more you focus on the capitalistic part of it, building the outer self, you tend to focus less and less on the inner self. And it even mellows you in some ways if you focus more on yourself. So what are your thoughts on that? Is that a compromise that needs to be handled between both the managing inner self and outer accomplishments? Or can we maximize both? Or how should we manage that?
Great question. Please see, capital 2 is an object to the self. The self is the one subject of all objects in the universe. Capital is an object. Lack of capital is also an object. And the ego would want to entertain itself with all these objects so that it does not have to look at itself. And when you look at an object, one way of engaging is, the object is great, I want to chase it. The other mode of engagement is, the object is evil, let's avoid it, let's drop it. Let's shout against it. Capital is just capital. Capital is an object. Capital is a resource. Use it wisely. Use it wisely and life would be beautiful. Use it unwisely and you have destroyed yourself. There is nothing glamorous or spectacular or spiritual or sacred about poverty. Right? These are not opposites, and that's the model that has done the entire field of wisdom a lot of harm. When we pit these two against each other, when we say, oh, spirituality and capital do not go together. No, not true, not true. Capital, please remember, is just another object, just another resource, just like a car. You must know whether you need a car, and if you do, how many cars you need, and if you do need a car, what place to drive it to. That's what you need to do. And if you drive the car wrongly or own an unreasonable number of them, or you go and bump your car into a divider, that's none of the car's fault. But if you find a driver blaming the car for his rash driving, chances are he wants to preserve his rashness. He wants to remain the rash driver that he is, and therefore he is instead blaming the car. There is nothing per se wrong with capital. There is nothing wrong with anything in this universe. Nothing in the universe can be labeled as good or bad, right or wrong, sacred or profane. All these are needless labels invented by the ego just for self-preservation. So drop these labels, focus on the one thing. Who am I? What have I become? That which I call as myself, how much of it is real? How much of it is just pure conditioning? Why am I so afraid? And why am I trying to give lovely colors to my fear? Why do I want to be respected? What is it that I want in lieu of respect or being respectable? So these are the real questions. Instead, a lot of field of spirituality and religion that has come to be about doing this thing, dropping that thing. Or drop money, pick that up, travel to that place, live this way, avoid thinking that way. These are great thoughts to have. That's the ideology you should avoid. No, all these are objects. Please remember, thoughts are to a thinker, deeds are to a doer, sights are to a seer. Focus on the one at the center of it. Not on the action, not on the deed, not on the choice. Focus on the chooser.
Hello, Acharya. It's an honor to be with you today. I've been with Gita Samagam for 2 years and I stay in Netherlands. My question is, what you're doing is incredible, but what we see with climate change and how it has been affected people across the world is humongous. We probably don't have that much enough time to kind of bring out the revolution which you are trying to bring out. So what is the way forward?
The way forward is exactly what we have been discussing so far, mass-based education of the self. Also, please remember, you need time if you have distance to cover. You don't need time to see where you are already standing. So it's not that we are short of time. Please understand. Time is needed when there is a task to be accomplished. When something additional needs to be done, then you need time. The entire problem of climate crisis is that we have been doing too much of additional and unnecessary things. So it's not about doing something more. That's why all these 30 COPs have failed. That's why the PPM stands today worse than where it stood 30 years back. Because we think the solution lies in doing something more. Oh, the climate crisis has been imposed on us by aliens. Now let's do something to fight it. No, sir, the climate crisis is something of your own doing. The doing needs to stop, and stopping doesn't take time. Reaching takes time. Acceleration takes time. How much time does it take to stop right where you are? To avert the climate catastrophe, additional steps are not needed. What is needed is that we just stop doing what we have been doing. And please tell me, does it really take a great deal of time to just stop? Just stop? Now, what it rather takes is intent. And also, please remember, if you think in terms of doing more to stop the climate crisis, doing requires energy, and energy itself is emissions. So in the name of stopping emissions, we say we need to do more, and in doing more, we emit more. So all that is not very sensible. Huh?
First of all, I think you are doing very important work. And I'm currently focusing on leadership coaching. And so it's kind of going to some of the essence that you are trying to accomplish in like broad educational systemic level, yeah, but targeting at these like critical nodes of people who are in a positions of power and highest pressure on decision making, who are making the most important decisions, yeah, influencing the systems kind of from the top. If you are going kind of from the grassroots, right, going the opposite direction, we should meet somewhere in center, I guess, hopefully, make it work together. And in my mind, there are 3 bridges that need to be built. Yeah. So I need to mention the 3 bridges. Yeah. So first bridge is between masculine and feminine way of experiencing the reality and contributing to the world, right? Or being in the world. Second one is between the Western and Eastern way of looking in the world and experiencing it. And the third one is between the old political economy, which was based on scarcity and power, and the new economy, the digital economy and AI native world, where more abundance is possible. And maybe the question then is just how in your mind we can start building these bridges in a more sound way than we are currently doing.
It's a very broad-based question. Bridging the masculine with the feminine, the old with the new, the Occidental with the Oriental. Let me reply with a simple question. Who is it that will cross the bridge? And in crossing over, does this one really intend to change? I can very well remain the same person this side of the bridge as I would be when I cross over. So is the intention really there? And without that intention, nothing works, nothing at all. These bridges might all be very useful, but much more important is the fact of inner honesty. Do I really intend to change? Otherwise, I can apply all kinds of intellectual, technological, and spiritual practices and put in jargon, and still I'll successfully remain who I have been. Please see, we know of the Jevons paradox, right? We have been thinking that we can contain, for example, emissions, pollutions, and all kinds of dirty things through tech and policy means. And tech is one of the things that you mentioned in your question. Does tech succeed? More than 150 years back, Jevons, what did he figure out? That as in the UK, the steam engines became more efficient, the consumption of coal only multiplied. The same thing we have seen with respect to computers. The processing speed is much better today, but the electricity consumption that goes into computing today is manifold compared to the 1980s or 1990s. AI, digital stuff, surveillance, all that is consuming many times more electricity, even as processing power has multiplied so many times. Same things we see with LED bulbs. They consume only a fraction of power. But now buildings are being lit up as entertainment. So the consumption of electricity has increased. Same things applies to automobiles. Today's automobile is much more fuel efficient. But efficiency only makes the input less pricey, and that increases the demand, because the demanding one is the self sitting here. So the self has to be known. Same thing applies even to EVs, you see. EVs, they are more efficient. Yes, they are. But then what about the number of vehicles that are multiplying? And that will require roads, and that will require cobalt, lithium, nickel to be mined up, and that will require forests to be cleared up, and that will also facilitate urban sprawl. So methods are not going to work. Policies too are not going to work, because the one who will set the policy in the morning is exactly the one who will work his way around the policy in the evening. The policy setter and the consumer are the same entity. The leader has been voted to power by not the voter but the consumer, because the voter is the consumer. So the voter is never going to put a leader into power who makes policies that suppress consumption. Or maybe the policies will be there, but workarounds would be invented. Intent is the only way, and that requires, I repeat the nth time, mass-based education of the self. That does not mean in no way that the old ways, the old methods of meditation or realization are worthless. That also does not mean that the new methods of policy making and technology are worthless. None of that is worthless. All that is very, very, very necessary. The Upanishads talk of Vidya and Avidya, worldly knowledge and internal realization together. These two have to move together. The balance is missing. The attention is missing. We have done too much on that side and too little on this side. That's what the whole thing is about.
I think that's a wonderful place to thank Acharya ji. Thank you so much. Thank you for helping us get the balance right, both in this dialogue, but also generally.
Breezy discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for it.
Thank you, Professor Prabhu. Thank you for making this a truly memorable experience for all of us here. And Acharya ji, thank you. Truly thank you. For most of us in this room, the last hour, this was not just a session, it was a pause. A rare moment to step back from the noise and ask the deeper questions we have been avoiding. Your clarity, your honesty, and your refusal to soften what needs to be said are exactly what this generation needs to hear. And this generation needs to strike the balance between Vidya and Avidya, as you correctly mentioned. We are deeply grateful for your time, your presence, and the spirit with which you spoke today. Thank you, Acharya ji.
Thank you. Thank you.
And now I would request Mr. Suyas Bhatt, the founder of Global Education Lab and our mentor, and Mr. Akhil Gupta from ICICI Bank UK to come forward and felicitate Professor Prabhu and Acharya ji.
Can you give me a hand? Come on, come on. Let's keep on.
Cambridge Union has witnessed discussions, debate that shaped empire, ended wars, and reimagined societies. Every great speaker who has stood in this chamber came with a vision for the world. Standing in union right now, what is it that you most want the world to hear?
The world has been trying everything. What more do we need to do? If where we stand seems to be a place of explosion, if all that we have done seems to have brought us just closer to extinction and eventual annihilation, so what more do we need to do? Mass-based education of the self remains probably the only thing we have not yet tried, and that's where the solution lies. All else that we have done is not wasteful, not unnecessary, but just not sufficient, right?
How do you kind of ensure that वो right center में रखो?
You figure out what pulls you to the wrong center.
Cambridge Judges Business School has produced CEOs, central bankers, and Nobel laureates. So, what does Indian contemplative tradition have to offer to the world's greatest economic and business problems?
You see, there is the Nobel Prize for Science, for peace. Science is for the human being, and it is the human being that craves for peace. So ultimately, all of them have been working for the human being. All the Nobel laureates, all the great scientists, thinkers, explorers, philosophers, adventurers, that's what they have been seeking, the welfare of the human being.
My question is, how do you distinguish between faith and when do you know it becomes an expectation?
Shraddha says, whatever happens is fine. Nishkamkam says, I am acting without caring for what happens. These two are much the same statement. We can see today that the welfare of the human being will be through a path that goes this side, inside. The route is inward. That's the direction to take. So it's much in the same vein, right? One is seeking human welfare through advancements in medicine, discovering the electron or the neutron or the structure of the DNA. I am standing here at Cambridge, so that's all that has happened here. And then, for the same purpose, towards the same goal, we now see that we have to look more keenly at ourselves, and if we do not know who the chooser is, then the choices will all be not very sensible. If we do not know who the inventor is, then the inventions can turn destructive. So the spotlight has to be put back on the self, because that's the place from where it all begins, and that's the place for which all of it happens. That's the beginning and the end. So it's much in the same direction.
I totally agree with you.
How does one save somebody?
To save him, there is a limit to my effort. The more I start seeing that saving him is saving myself, the barriers to action start dropping.
Cambridge has been an incubator of science and technology and has produced immeasurable Nobel laureates. In context of the current heat waves in India, do you think technology holds the solution?
Not really. You see, technology is for the sake of efficiency, right? How can I do more of what I want by putting in less of what I have to? Right? Technology is about improving the output by input ratio, right? And we are relating all that to the heat wave we are experiencing in India. Even in London. London was having a particularly unusual heat wave 3 days back. The fire that is producing that carbon is within the human being. Know who you are. Once you know who you are, you will know what is truly right for you. And having known what is truly right for you, immerse into it without bothering about what happens next. Without detecting the source of the fire. The fire is here in the human ego, in the unexamined human center. And irrespective of what tech or policy measures you have, the fire will consume each one of them if the fire itself is not addressed.
And the right center is boring.
The right center is deeper fun. It's called joy. What would you rather have, fun or joy? Joy.
This is amazing. So basically this is called Corpus Christi clock. It was inaugurated by Sir Stephen Hawking, and this is, by the way, 24 karat gold plated, but it has like physical meanings and philosophical meanings as well.
You know how it would be interpreted
philosophically.
Yeah, I mean, we'd love to know from you.
So what you see there as the wheels,
Right.
is what you could call as physical time or chronological time. And that bug would represent the ego. That bug would represent the ego. So that bug is what causes distortions in the chronological event. So what we find distorted here is psychological time. So when the ego meets the universe, it is never the universe that it rightly perceives. It perceives my universe. And my universe is never the real thing. My universe is always a projection of the ego. I'm not mistaken, Pradeep, electron, neutron, proton, all were first of all discovered.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, this discovery changed not just physics, but also language. Atom used to mean literally the indestructible and the indivisible. Once the electron came in, the atom was divided.
So that's James Clerk Maxwell, right? It's the portrait of James Clerk Maxwell.
All from my field.
All from your, literally, yeah, you're interested in physics, all of them like physicists, top notch. So J.J. Thomson, James Clerk Maxwell, Newton himself. So that's on top, that is Wren Library. That's where the text of Newton and Ramanujam's are kept, like the oldest possible text. So you said alchemy text, so all those texts are all like there. And of course, copy of Principia Mathematica is also there. But just below that corridor, that's where the speed of sound was discovered by Newton himself. So he first came up with the formula, but later on it's experimentally validated. I think there was an error of 15% as well, but that's where the validation happened. Yeah. So you see, like there are chairs and tables and people are literally studying before the exam. But this is also where the experimental setup was set for measuring the speed of sound. So this is the Gonival and Keys. This is called Senate House. This is where all the ceremony of, let's say, giving a professorship, fellowship, PhD, and our degrees are also given here. So this is the Senate House, oldest Senate House.